Pacharee Pantoomano, and welcome to Entrepreneur Now TV. Today I have with me Justin Dunne. He is formerly the GM of Bed Supper Club and the director at Coup d'Etat. He's currently also a co-owner of GMASA Bottling Trust, and he recently started his company, Evolution 48, a hospitality and F&B producing firm specializing in Southeast Asia. Welcome.
Thank you.
Justin.
Thank you. That's a mouthful, I know. But thank you for the nice intro.
Thank you. We were just talking about GMASA Bottling Trust. How did you guys come up with that name?
Good question. I mean, myself and my partners, we sort of sat down one day. We wanted something, obviously it's in Thailand, so we wanted a little bit of a tie to the land. So the word GMASA is an old archaic Thai word for soda water. And then that sort of ties into the bottling part of the name. It's a beautiful old colonial home, about 100 years old, and part of the time during that stay was originally was a home. So a very wealthy homeowner lived in there first, and then in the 1940s, Thai Nam Tip, or most people recognize as sort of Coca-Cola, or the distributor for Coca-Cola in Thailand, came in, and they used it as a bit of a headquarters for about 35 years. So you had the GMASA bottling, and then they eventually gave it over to, or sold it off to, Thai Danu Bank, which eventually merged with DBS out of Singapore, and then Thai Military Bank as it stands today. So you've got home originally, or the GMASA part. Bottling is when it was a bottling headquarters, and then trust is our word for bank. So it had those different owners, and then we are the fourth tenant within the building, and that comprises the GMASA Bottling Trust.
That's a good story. Makes you remember it now, right?
Yeah, good.
Okay. So recently we were talking in passing about, there was an article in the press about Thailand wanting to attract higher-end tourists into the country, and as someone who's an expert in the area for restaurants and bars, I was interested in getting your insights, and I think you came to us today with some tips in mind. So I was wondering if you could kind of like dive into the first one. What do you think bars and restaurant owners should do to attract higher-end tourists into their restaurants? Yeah,
it's accumulation of a lot of different things. Obviously, Thailand is going through a very interesting period at the moment, and you've got a lot of restaurants opening, you see a lot of closing, but the ones that are surviving, the ones that are doing well, especially for the more high-end tourists, have got some very similar characteristics that sort of help build that together and then lure or gravitate some of the more high-end clientele. And I'm going to go through those notes with you today.
Cool, that's great. So tell us what would be your first tip.
First one is you've got to get on the map. And what I mean by that is not a literal map, as people are no longer carrying too many maps. But what I mean is you've got to get a lot of positive word of mouth, or a lot of positive accolades right away. And that either comes in the form of having a good, strong PR team that's going to get you a lot of international exposure. It's also getting into a lot of the more well-to-do or more well-known guidebooks. For example, Louis Vuitton guidebook just came out with a nice one. Monaco came out with a new one. And then you've got the bunch of all the Lonely Planets, the Farmers, and all of those as well. Tripadvisor is also very crucial to get a lot of consistent, positive feedback. International tourists do take a look at Tripadvisor, and if they see that you're in there with a lot of consistent positive comments, especially if you're in the top 50, that seems to draw on a lot of people that have done that research. We have found, we do know that international tourists do a lot of research before heading out here, and they don't want to make a mistake. So Tripadvisor is very helpful. Also, it's when I talk about, sort of making the map, also to be part of the local map as well. When these tourists do come into Bangkok or Thailand, one of the first things they'll do is they'll ask other people, whether it's a hotel concierge or friends of theirs, where do you go? Where do you recommend? So if the locals also have favorable and promising stories of your venue, they're also more likely to say, hey, why don't you go check out that place over on Ceylon? We had a great time there the last time we were there. The other guests have had great times, so let me recommend that one. So that's what I call getting on the map.
Okay, great. So what would be the other tip that a restaurateur or bar would need to do?
Gotta have good food. I've always sort of criticized Thailand a little bit for they're fooled in many ways here. I've seen many places get away with sort of having a better party than a better product. And the international tourist is not so easily fooled. They too like to go to a busy venue, but ultimately they're paying for a good experience, they want a good experience, and what that comes down to is good food. And a lot of the good food at the moment that's really bustling is what I call blue-collar comfort food. So it's a lot of Asian food, it's a lot of Asian dishes, modern Asian, but it's also the burgers, the barbecue, pizzas. But good food, it's got to be good. For the international guest tourists, it's got to be good food.
What about for the higher end food? Do you see that Thailand is a gastronomic delight, but do you see there's a niche for something that could potentially be fulfilled?
I mean, there are a lot of restaurants in here that are catering to the real high end, and we've seen some of those come in just within the last year. The word is still out, however, as to how long they're going to be able to sustain that, especially if Thailand continues to go through a little bit of an uncertain period, is how many super, I mean, because in the high end category, there's well-to-do, there's high end, there's super high end, and then there's the real cream of the crop. And some of those, you know, a place like Namsa Bottling Trust can appeal to all of those, where other places, for maybe Robichon, that only goes to that top niche. And so, yeah, there is a market. It's just the more premium it goes, the smaller the demographic it's going to be.
Yeah, that's true, because of the spending.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, though, just to take us on that,
sure.
You know, about great food and great place. What about if some places, sometimes they go through their cycle of like being really popular, and then at some point they kind of have to do a makeover. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Because there are some places maybe they aren't currently addressing the higher end market, but maybe they want to up their game or they want to diversify their products. Sure. What advice would you give? You could just pick one. Sure.
I mean, I think a lot of that comes down to almost rebranding, where they bring in a very strong PR team and go, hey, look guys, what we've done in the past isn't really working for us. Let's change our strategy. Let's change our menus. Let's change a lot of our front of house people and shift this to a point where we're able to get these people in, that we need to get butts in seats right now. And that again is done through a lot of different factors. But I would start with, if it's that dire and they're looking at maybe, hey, look, a year from now we may not be here, let's completely rebrand.
Okay. So what would be your next tip then?
Good question. Face. I think you have to have a strong face be present. When you've got international guests coming in, they like to have somebody at site, whether it's an owner or a strong manager or a maitre d', somebody that knows that they're coming and can say, hey, welcome Nui, good to see you, or good to see you again. That person that's got some charisma, that's got strong English skills, that can give a lot of information about the venue, the background of the venue, the menu, somebody that's front and center, that's warm, that's charismatic, that helps give a face to the venue.
That's a good idea. So then that means you really have to hunt for them, don't you?
You sure do. And but the venues that all are doing well all have some of these traits to them, and the ones that aren't, one of the things you first time look at is that when you go in there and it's like, there's nobody sort of taking control, or there's no face person. Yeah, and it's just, it all kind of feels flat. And when you're paying top dollar for a memorable guest experience, having that person, you know, to kind of, hey Nui, thanks for coming in, we'll see you again next month, or welcome back whenever you come, remembers you and you remember them, that face person, somebody that really is taking the venue seriously and the guest experience seriously.
Oh, okay. So when you were hiring for the person to be the face, what were some of the qualities that you were screening for?
Great English. Strong experience, background of dealing with people and dealing with their own staff, and a good recollection. I mean, great hospitality, what it comes down to. I mean, are they willing to do a little bit of research before you come in so they know who you are and what you do, and are they able to be present and warmth and a great vibe?
Yeah. Is that a skill set that you think is easy to train up, or is it better to like coach?
You'd like to be able to say you can train it up, but it's not an easy thing to train up. It's ultimately personality traits. So you do see the ones that are doing well in town. They've usually they've either got their little circuit of restaurants that they've been in before, and now they're landed another greater, better paying, more publicity job. So you'd like to think you can train some things. I mean, I do think you can train a little bit more of a greater guest experience, but as far as that face guy, that love of something that an owner carries, or even just getting that sense of ownership, is sometimes can be pretty challenging in Thailand to pass that on to someone that's not an owner.
What about some of these? We saw recently in some of the restaurants and hotels as well, they have social ambassadors. What are your thoughts on that?
Great. It's, you know, I saw whether it's a social ambassador or somebody would actually, you know, we've seen the term influencer. Somebody that influences either the guests from inside the venue, or oftentimes somebody that's in the market that has a strong say. It's somebody that posts pictures on Instagram or Facebook talking about your venue. That's an ambassador. That's somebody that influences people that are part of their demographic going to your venue. But ultimately, the people inside the venue are also your number one ambassadors or your influencers. If you go into my restaurant and you have a good time, you're going to tell other people, and that itself, that guest experience, becomes the greatest ambassador. And people are, you know, the demographic that we're talking about they're sophisticated. They know when it's legitimate, when it's authentic, and when it's missing.
Good word of mouth is it's pretty hard to beat. Okay, so the next tip here, you've got not be too big. What is that? What is that?
It means that in the past couple of years, we've seen a couple of venues struggle that had very optimistic plans, but ultimately that gave a very too big. And every restaurant owner wants to maximize the number of seats in the venue, so oftentimes you say, let's go with a lot of seats. More seats, more people equal more revenue. But what we've seen as tourism has dropped a little bit in Thailand is that sometimes even if you've got 30 people in your restaurant, if your restaurant seats 100, all of a sudden you've got 70 seats that are empty, and therefore the whole experience feels like it's a little bit of a letdown. So what we're seeing now is the venues that are really pumping it is they're not too big. They have fewer tables, which creates, when you do go in there, it's a real buzzy feeling, and foreign tourists are used to that experience. And it also creates a bit of a wait. You know, whether it's a 1 week wait or a 2 hour wait, but foreign tourists are used to those sort of venues. You know, where they're coming from, whether it's Chicago or London, they're used to restaurants being so in demand that it gives validity to those venues, and that's again what people are looking for when they come. They want to be sold a bill of validity that where they're going is in demand. So one of the ways you can do that is, again, whether it's a great product but also limit the size and how big you are. I've seen venues be destroyed because they're just too big.
What do you, in your mind, what would be optimal? Like how many seats is GMASA?
At this point right now, I think a dining room of 40 to 50 seats is pretty welcoming.
Okay.
So it's never, even if there's only a couple tables, it still fills the room. Nobody likes to feel like they're the only ones in a room, and that can happen if it's a big venue.
Okay. So how about a restaurant where like you can have different sections as well? What do you think of those? Where like you could open or close, you know, and it gives. So it gives you the ability to open up a new section, but sometimes maybe that room is a VIP room or something, or a boardroom.
Yeah, I mean, just about every restaurant has a bit of a private dining area, and that is for people that want a little bit of privacy. It's also sometimes to protect the other diners. You know, we've seen many times when people in one room get too noisy, that it's almost having that private dining room sort of protects the other venues, but having different rooms or different creative rooms or different decorated rooms also gives the guests an opportunity to come back and still feel like they're getting a different experience. So all for creativity in that way. Yeah.
Okay. Funky or quirky? Tell me about that.
Yeah, funky or quirky are my sort of Bangkok terms, more positive terms for being chaotic and mad. I mean, well, one of the things we love about Bangkok is unlike any other place. It's wacky, it's funky, it's weird, it's bizarre, it's lawless. And people that come to Bangkok want that experience. It's the only place I've ever seen where people go down to Soy 11 and drink 60-baht beer on the street because it's kind of a fun thing to do in Bangkok. But for your restaurant, even the high-end people want to have an experience where they're not going to get anywhere else. They don't want to go to a place that they're going to get the same experience in London, LA, Paris, wherever it might be. And so what I'm saying is they want a flavor of Thailand. They want a flavor of that chaotic craziness. And having elements of funk, whether it be on your menu or whether it be with your staff, you know, your venue decor, or even the way the foods are presented, they want creativity, funk, or a quirkiness, something that they associate being authentically Thai or authentically Southeast Asian, and it gives a greater, more memorable experience. Something memorable.
Yeah. Do you think that that's applicable for all across the board, from like low-end as well as the high-end restaurants, for the funky, quirky?
I would sure say it helps. I mean, that is why I think people are real eager to go eat. You know, a lot of foreign tourists, even if they're well-to-do, will eat at a place called Cheap and Tasty at the entrance to Soy 39, because you just don't see a lot of those other experiences anywhere else. It's to sit right on the street when you've got rats on the street and little mafia mobiles up and down. In LA, you don't see that. You see food trucks, but that's it. So yeah, I do think that's a big part of, even on the low end, it's people getting an experience here that they just can't get anywhere else. It's madness out there, but it's a madness that tourists want at least a little bit. Maybe not in their hotel room, but when they go out to eat, they want something that tattoos them as being in Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
What's your other tip for restaurateurs and bars?
I like having a good cocktail menu. It's still pretty rare for Thais to sort of go in and meet up and have a couple cocktails or sit at the bar, but for foreign tourists, they do that all the time. It's almost customary that when you go in, you're going with other people, you meet first at the bar, you have a couple cocktails, then you go into the other room to have dinner, you go upstairs to have dinner, and then you sort of reconvene again at the end of dinner and have another cocktail. And that's encouraged by having a strong cocktail menu. I'm fond of telling people, yeah, you may order one burger, but you may order 5 mojitos. It's also where a lot of the revenue really is in the alcohol, it's in the bar. So, and tourists are looking for that. They don't want to see Cape Cod or Screwdriver on the menu anymore. They want to see something that's local, they want to see some local Thai flavors, they want to see something creative, and again, it's got a little bit of that quirk. But ultimately, again, it's a strong product where we talked about great food, they want to see great cocktails as well.
We hear a lot about restaurants, developing new cuisine infusions and things like that. What's going on in the mixology scene?
It's going much more back towards the classics. It's the liquid nitrogen and the handcrafted artisanal cocktails are there. That's popular, but I think there's a price point now what Bangkok is willing to pay, and I still think that's between 220 and 300 baht. And all of a sudden, if you're importing spices and herbs from the caves in Nepal and bringing in a mixologist from London who spends 20 minutes making the cocktail, people have kind of had enough. Instead, they want just they want an old-fashioned Negroni that's got a little bit of a Thai twist to things, and so it's quick, it's still recognizable, it's classic, and it's strong.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's a good question. I like that question.
Yeah, I like it too. Well, because I didn't think about it, in terms of, because I'm always drinking wine. Yeah. So I don't, but I know I have some friends who are big on.
The cocktail at Nam Sa has really been a bit of a huge surprise, I think, in many ways. And the food's great, but the cocktail program has really helped enhance the guest experience big time.
Okay, so tell me, what do you think is important in the marketing of a bar or restaurant?
From the marketing standpoint, I've always sort of liked to break it. I mean, the bigger umbrella is all about building relationships with your guests, whether it's local guests or whether it's foreign guests. It's building that relationship, and I think the easiest way to do that is I've sort of broken it down to 4 points. And that's one is generosity. Second one is authenticity, appreciation, and storytelling. And what I mean by that is I sort of break down things quickly. So appreciation is guests can go into so many different venues now. There's so many good restaurants in Bangkok that when they choose to come to you, it's warm, it's thank yous, it's showing great gratitude and appreciation toward your guests. Authenticity is just being real. People want to interact with real people that have real stories. And then storytelling, people want to know what was the inspiration for the culinary team or the chef to come up with this particular dish, or why did you guys decide to paint the house pink, or where is the chef from, or what was this cocktail here is fantastic. What's the story? How did you guys decide to come up with this cocktail? People want a little bit of that storytelling behind it. And generosity. It's I'm not encouraging people to sort of give away the house, but a little bit of a taster of a new dish that you're working on, or a round of cocktails for guests that have been coming back, or spending large amounts, that gives the guests a greater, it's very welcome just because it was very unexpected. So anytime they receive a little something extra, whether it's even just a visit from the owners or something a little extra, here you guys, these desserts are on the house, it becomes that more memorable experience.
Surprise, yeah. Nice. Social media has really become important, I think,
Sure.
is for many bars and restaurants, right? Because besides going on places like Tripadvisor or other review sites, we're looking online trying to get word of mouth. So how can restaurant and bar owners leverage on social media?
I think it's very important to continue to stay visible. With all the competition that's out there, it's to stay in the front of people's minds as, hey, let's go to dinner this weekend. We've got some friends coming in. Where do we go? And you know what? I saw this place just had a new posting on their Facebook page. So I don't think it has to be, I definitely don't think it's the end all. I think a lot of social media has gotten a little bit too much exposure and people have sort of turned it off a little bit. But to have your stuff pop up and have it be interesting and engaging and consistent. To the point where if I take a look at somebody's page that I'm considering going to their restaurant, I see that they're updated on a regular basis, that shows me that they're engaged and they're interested in what may draw me to them. So whether it's Facebook or Twitter a little bit in Thailand, not so much, but Instagram is huge. And then I'd also say that visibility is also extended beyond the social media to also the community. I see some of the restaurants or bars doing very well. They've sort of expanded out from their restaurant and they're now doing, what might be a charity dinner down at the river, or with Wonderfruit recently I saw that some of the restaurants that are doing well, that they've got a food truck down there or a pop-up restaurant, and it's visibility in areas that you normally would not see them, that triggers people's memories of, the next time I'm back in Bangkok, I'm going to go over and see their restaurant because I just had their burger and it was great. Yeah. So,
like the winter fair, we went to the winter fair, and it reminded me of a few restaurants we hadn't seen because they had the food trucks.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, and the kids were like, "Yeah, Mom, we hadn't been there in a while."
Good, and that's what I sort of call remaining visible, sort of cool visibility outside the restaurant or outside the bar.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
So thank you so much, Justin, for coming in and giving us all those tips. For some of you who are just kind of tuning in, if you're looking for the points that Justin raised here, we're going to put it in the link at the bottom of the video, and you're welcome to visit his website at Evolution 48. Thank you so much for stopping by. See you again soon.
Thank you.